Hi, listeners. Welcome to the MI Mental podcast. In this episode on Doctors in Court, we're going to talk about the case of a pediatrician who accused the parents too soon. In 2019, a 9-year-old boy had a medulloblastoma surgically removed. Okay, let's stop there and talk a little bit about what a medulloblastoma is. So, medulloblastoma is a common brain tumor in children. Of all the brain tumors in kids, 20% are medulloblastomas. It is a malignant tumor. It means that it can spread quickly and can actually spread through the cerebrospinal fluid. If left untreated, 15% of children will die within a few years. However, in 60% of children, treatment can be achieved. And the main way to cure medulloblastomas is to remove it through an operation and then to give chemo or radiotherapy. If this is done in time, 50 to 90% of children are tumor-free in 5 years. So let's go back to the case. So remember, a 9-year-old boy had been diagnosed with medulloblastoma and the tumor had been surgically removed. After the operation, the parents went to see a pediatrician oncologist to discuss the next treatment plans. So according to the pediatrician oncologist, the parents of the boy were resistant, and the pediatrician, it was a she, perceived that the parents were a bit more distant, and she tried to explain to the parents that they needed to really consider further treatment such as radiotherapy or chemotherapy in order to save the boy's life. Well, she also mentioned that the standard potentially curative treatment needed to take place within 31 days after the operation. She perceived the parents at the time to be very reluctant, and they left her consultation room without making this decision. So what did she do? She then filed a complaint to the officials, basically saying that she felt that the child had been abused by the parents. So it ended up going to court. And during the court, the parents stated that they had only seen the pediatrician oncologist at that time for the first time, and they felt that the pediatrician was leading them to make a decision or to consent to this standard therapy. And when they felt threatened by the pediatrician during that consultation with a child abuse case, they decided to leave. In essence, the court concluded that the pediatrician's response and the decision to file a child abuse case, well, according to the pediatrician, she had the right to do that. However, the judges thought that the pediatrician should have allowed some extra days for the parents to think about this treatment. And they suggested that had the parents, for example, during a second consultation with another specialist, then decided that they were not going to consent to this potentially life-saving treatment and had given the parents reasonable time to decide, and had they come back and said, well, we're not going to do it, then the pediatrician would have been in her right to file a child abuse complaint against the parents. The judges reinforced that the complaint was not misplaced and that the correct procedure was followed, and for that reason, the pediatrician was given a warning. So, what we want to think about here is what is the consequences for the parents, for the doctor, but mainly for the child. We have a pediatrician who felt that within the 31-day scope, or let's say range of time to make a decision, something had to be done. Maybe the pediatrician did not explain to the parents what it entailed to start treatment, how much treatment it was. Nevertheless, the parents did not feel like they were being heard, especially if you think about it. The parents were in court and telling the judges that in the first consultation with a pediatrician, they were being threatened with a complaint about child abuse. Now, I'm a parent myself, and if I had to make such a decision regarding my child's care, I would hope that I would be given some time to deal with it, to express my feelings, express my concerns without having to be forced to consent to some kind of treatment, which, yes, of course, is life-saving, but I can totally see myself in the parents' shoes. On the other hand, I felt the pediatrician, given what we now know based on the court details, she must have wanted to urge the parents of how important it was to start this treatment. So I can see that during that moment, the pediatrician is really trying to get her point across. But I think to then threaten the parents in the first consultation that she's going to complain to child authority of child abuse, well, I do believe that the judges were fair in giving this pediatrician a warning. So, if anybody's out there and you're going to try to convince somebody of a treatment, I think it's wise to give them a reasonable time to think about it and follow up. Speak to them again, even if in a couple of hours, but make sure you keep the conversation open and let them think about them and express their concerns and offer them enough time to ask questions. That's it for today. It's just a sneak preview of what to expect in 2024. I'll be elaborating on much more cases about this. We're going to be talking about different cases where doctors have found themselves in court and have had to defend their views and their practices. And we'll dive into some of the legal issues and the ethical concerns that arise when we look into what doctors do. Thank you.